welcome to the another podcast episode of the Warehouse Floor. I've got myself, Tim Hoy, is the CEO of Hoy Innovations, and Levi is an owner and partner of PJammy and a company called 7x6, an apparel brand. So appreciate your time being on availability for the podcast. We like to highlight companies that are going through evolution and change and the role of kind of becoming better and better over time, and wanted to ask a couple questions, talk about your journey of fulfillment, and to talk about the successes that 7x6 has had over this last year and kind of in one of your recent evolutions. Can you tell us a little bit about your brand and how long you've had the company and what your products and focuses are?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is definitely a cool experience. Well, we basically, our brand's 7x6, but we started out about 20 years ago with me and my buddy in college, and my buddy owned a property maintenance company, and we went to a couple freight salvage stores around here in Salt Lake City area, and we started buying old college books and selling them back to the bookstore at the U of U and other places like community college and stuff like that. And we were making a couple $100 here and there. And we started thinking, well, what if we did this a little bit more full time after our full shift at the other jobs? And so we just started going as much as we could, buying stuff cheap and selling it higher. And one thing led to another. When we finally got to a point where we're buying more and selling more than what we were doing at our other jobs, then we kind of just said, well, let's just take this full time. And, you know, as far as from like a operation standpoint, we started in one bedroom of my buddy Sean's house, and it was me and Sean doing everything. And from a fulfillment standpoint, we look back on those days and go, I can't even believe, like the days that we had 40 orders and we had to type 40 addresses by hand on like a postage thing, just where we typed everything and tape it and everything. And it's crazy to think back on where we've come from. So yeah, so we basically started selling different things, and the college book thing kind of fizzled out a little bit, so we kind of pivoted a little bit to apparel, and a lot of times we did DVDs back in the day when DVDs were really hot, but that kind of fizzled out too, so we kind of always stayed on with the apparel side of things. And we really didn't have a thing that we sold, so we really didn't have an identity yet. And we started going to a lot of trade shows in Vegas and other places, and we started getting a lot of accounts that dealt with pop culture. So anything that has to do with Superman, Batman, movies, music, anything that you see at Comic-Con. We started buying setting up a lot of accounts with that. And so we kind of just followed where we were heading. And so one thing led to another, and we specialize in, anything Comic-Con apparel and stuff like that. Harry Potter is a big one. Actually, we're one of probably the second biggest Harry Potter seller in America, next to the theme park. So yeah, so there's a good chance if anybody's wearing Harry Potter stuff that came from our company.
Well, it's interesting. The brands that you focused on way back when were not mainstream brands like they are today. I mean, you go through your warehouse and you see that, whether it's the Harry Potter label or all the Marvel, and you've got some really big brands that you represent in the fulfillment of apparel and pajamas. So
yeah.
What are some of the other big brands inside that?
Well, I mean, any Marvel, Disney, Harry Potter, really, let's see, there's a few more. But mostly Warner Brothers. Yeah. Warner Brothers is one of our biggest contracts that we can make and distribute sleepwear. And, and those things came down the line. We started selling just wholesale, like buying from different wholesalers and then selling that stuff. And then as we grew, we kind of started realizing that if we wanted to start growing to the size we want to grow to, we'd have to like get contracts with different places and, you know, own the rights to certain things and actually start manufacturing stuff. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
The business obviously has grown quite a bit. It was maybe a year and a half ago that where we got introduced was really with the contractor developer relationship that worked with our building actually, and it was a landlord, I think, on your building.
Yeah.
And you know, Mike Haslam made an introduction and said, you know, hey, we got a little bit of a space problem, and you were looking at some other space across the street. How many warehouses were you in at that point?
When we first met with you guys?
Yeah.
Oh, it was a disaster. I'm scared to even think about it, but we had, I think it was 8 to 10 storage units. We were renting a little bit of warehouse space across the street from the new building. And then we had another warehouse out by the airport. It was just all over. And the system we were using wasn't separated. It was, when we got a pick list, we would have a pick list and be like, oh, this is over in this warehouse. So that pick list would have to travel with someone that actually goes and gets the stuff. It would just take forever. And it was, you know, my only regret is we didn't talk to you before and have enough time, because we literally were running out of our lease at the other warehouse, and we didn't have enough time because our busy season's fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tons of Christmas presents and stuff like that's going out the door. So we didn't have a lot of time to move into the new 60,000 square foot warehouse. And when we did, we just put the racks up, like however we thought the racks would be fine. And we quickly realized that we must have done something wrong, because we're running out of space already, and we haven't grown that much. And, you know, and so I think my business partner Brandon started looking around, and that's when we got introduced to you guys. And
yeah, I think Mike was looking at another maybe 8,000 square feet across the street, and he's like, we can rent it to him, but he goes, it might be good to just talk to him. Maybe you can help him fit more space in there. And, you know, that's really we have two parts of the business, and it seemed that really one part is storage solutions, right? And then, there's about 5 parts of our business, but storage solutions is one of them, and optimizing that cube. The other part is the operations process and software, which you didn't have a need at the time. You had a system, but there was definitely a cubic storage problem.
Oh yeah, the storage problem was the first problem for sure.
That was the pain point that pushed you kind of like, we need to talk to some people.
Yeah.
And that introduction to Mike was through Mike was great. We had some good conversations. We said we can definitely help, and it was, you know, you can tell you guys were good operators. You had systems and processes. You did what was very conventional racking. That you set up racking for forklift use, and you fill it up quick.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd go home at night and think of different ways to streamline the processes that we have with the stuff that we have. So I mean, we always made stuff better, but we really didn't. There was always something that we knew we were missing in terms of just getting the job done in storage and everything else like that.
Yeah, and so with that problem, you know, the thing that Robert and the team, we have a data science group that does that data analytics, the SKU activity and volume. We kind of put some cubic size to the SKU activity and look at all the parts. And a lot of e-commerce companies, you do have a lot of styles, size, parts. And so that is a really common problem in fulfillment that, you know, if you had 50 SKUs, it gets a little bit simpler to solve because you can dedicate
a lot of companies out there have around 50. I mean, we have close to, if you put both the arms together, we probably have 24,000 SKUs.
Yeah.
It's 25,000. Yeah.
It's a challenge. So, you know, getting the data work on that, starting to sift through it to start to understand how could we do it different. That's really kind of when Robert started to see some new ideas and the idea of going to more bin storage, more case storage, away from pallet storage, which is the industry standard. What was that? What was that idea like when we started to pitch? How about making this pretty drastic change?
Yeah. Well, one thing we've always done is when we started growing from bigger warehouses graduating into bigger warehouses, we've always had a forklift in terms of, and an order picker. So we always thought you had to be pallet, you put your racks up and you have pallet spots, and that's where it is. So when you guys introduced the idea of being a carton company rather than a pallet company, and it kind of threw us for a loop a little bit. Like, is that even possible? Like, I don't even understand the process, how that would work. And so it was a little bit shocking, but we knew we were doing something wrong because we had just moved into the brand new warehouse, 60,000 square feet, and we put the same stuff in, and our new trucks came in for the fourth quarter, and we were out of room. So we literally shouldn't have been out of room. And we were, at the warehouse before, we were at 16,000 and 25,000 square feet in two different warehouses. So we definitely, the new 60,000 foot square warehouse definitely had more spots to put inventory in, but we could not, for the life of us, understand how we were running out of space. And when you guys came in and did the study, it's just a matter of changing your thinking. Now, not everybody is easy to flip a switch and change their thinking, but one thing that me and my business partners are really good at, we don't mind change. Yeah. If we can think about it and like, hey, this might work, a lot of people really don't like change, and there was a few people in the warehouse that, like, this is never going to work, and we actually lost a couple. We lost one management position that he was just not for, changing the warehouse around. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, the changes, and it is a challenge, and most people don't love it, but people do get comfortable with it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's obviously the benefit to businesses. Any business that is anticipating the need, it's obvious, and they're like, I'm up for the challenge. Ultimately, I think they're all going to be better companies.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that survive, and they're the ones that adapt and get the wins from change. So, no, I think that as we floated that, you guys clearly adopted it pretty quick. You're like, I think this has merit. Let's talk through it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, no way. And like you said, there's people in the business that said, I'm not for this. Like, I'm out. Yeah. And we see that occasionally too. But the two owners that you're like, let's talk further. Like, I want to get behind this. Let's figure this out. But
and there's actually 4 owners, just to give a shout out to them.
Yeah. Well, to the 4 owners, you guys are great. Yeah. No, that's excellent.
Yeah. And Brandon will kill me if I don't say these numbers. Okay. Just from your guys' study, we used to fit 1.3 million units in the warehouse before we implemented your system. And after we implemented your system, we fit around 2.1 or 2.2 million units in our warehouse. And we even took your guys' theory, like study, and we made a few tweaks to make it our own. And so now we have 2.5 million units in our warehouse, and we have no reason to get another warehouse. And there's tons of room to grow. And we really feel like with WarehouseOS, having the storage, and with WarehouseOS, it doesn't matter if we double our sales or triple our sales, we can handle it. And there's not even like, if we double, I hope we double in the next fourth quarter than the previous fourth quarter, like we'll be able to handle it, because it's just implementing the same system and just duplicating, this many packers, this many pickers, and just taking care of it. So there's no moving on the horizon out of our warehouse. Yeah. Like, there's plenty of space, and switching to being a carton company rather than a pallet company was amazing. And even though there was aisles that you guys left for pallets, for the big stuff. So yeah.
Well, very exciting. Yeah. I mean, to think about the growth that you need to take on, and to not feel the constraints that have always been chaining you guys, like, hey, we got some real room. We got success in the future. And
there's plenty. The only way we're getting a new warehouse is if it's going to be like on the East Coast area, and just because it will help shipping costs. Yeah. And even then, we'll implement your same exact system.
And you'll manage it there, exactly. And you'll have the visibility.
Exactly. And we'll have the comfort knowing that we'll be able to train them, and as long as they do what they're supposed to do in terms of like processes, they're not gonna mess up on shipping orders. They're not gonna run out of room, stuff like that.
But for the cube solution, you did get some consolidation. I mean, the strategy really was narrowing aisles, going to case solutions. And are you in any of the external warehouses now? Or
Nope. We finished the complete takeover, like process change, and we slowly moved everything from the storage units and the other warehouses out into the new system. And this last fourth quarter, we had no external warehouses. Everything was where we were at. We were able to pick all the orders, and we knew exactly what we needed to do and get it out the door. So we had people like, oh, remember when we used to just have to throw on a jacket, go to the storage unit with the trailer? I mean, it would be crazy for some of the customers to think, well, in order to get this Harry Potter bathrobe, we had to jump in our F-150, hook up a trailer, drive all the way to a storage unit, dig through the storage unit that we had all these pallets stocked at. And it was kind of semi-organized, but it was still just rough. So,
yeah, it was a hurdle. It was a hurdle to make it happen. But, and again, looking at your company getting that done, again, huge respect to the companies that just say, we got to get it done. This is our service level agreement to our customers. This is what we want to do.
Yeah.
And we really just have so much respect for companies just like yours and your company specifically that want to take on the challenge of fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of, the trends today are, let's not worry about it. Let's let someone else do that.
Yeah.
And there's so much, I think, potential for companies to do it and do it well, do it as a cost model that allows them to be more efficient, more profitable. What are some of the reasons? It sounds like your company started as always handling it because you guys did it in your room, you moved it to your garage. This is a common story for a lot of us, a lot of our customers that move from a garage into their first warehouse and they grow. But, what do you think are the differences for your company that puts a focus to that fulfillment?
Well, I mean, number one, nobody's going to treat our orders with urgency and the respect that we want them to be treated with unless it's us. I mean, you can't, you have everyone trying to go into drop shipping and stuff, but the bottom line is any company that's just fulfilling for other people, there's going to come a time where either they're backlogged or something, and somebody's orders are going to get left behind. And so by us controlling everything, we can make sure that, like, the number one thing is we want to make sure the customer gets their product on time, fast, and because everything we sell on, we're a big marketplace company, your Targets, Walmarts, Amazon, stuff like that. They all have metrics, and if you don't keep those metrics and keep the customers happy, you can get shut off, you can get your account canceled, and companies that just fulfill for other people, we really don't see that they care as much as, no one's going to care as much as we are about, the customer's orders,
No, I think that's true. I mean, especially, there's a lot of great 3PL solutions that are great operators. There's no question.
Yeah. Oh.
And many of them do a great job. But the fact that you are saying no one cares as much as we care is absolutely true across the board. It's your products, it's your brands, it's your company, it's your customer touch. And taking that ownership role, I think it's a big difference.
Yeah.
And, and the advantage of not breaking that cycle or breaking an order or, breaking a promise to a customer and having that bad experience, those are painful and they cost your market share. So, the fact that you've taken that on and always, kept it in-house is obviously promoted your brand.
And we started way back before, like, drop shipping was the rage and stuff like that, where we just knew if we wanted to sell something, we needed to buy it and then sell it, And so, like, when you hear people talking about, well, I mean, I bought a pallet of this, but it's stored at this place, and sometimes I don't understand how they can put stuff up for sale and just feel like everything's going to go through.
Right.
Because I've seen and had some horror stories. I mean, we've done it before because there's different strategies to get stuff. You know, you kind of want a warehouse here in the central, like western side, and then maybe on the East Coast, you know, to save a little bit on shipping. So we've looked into, you know, we've had a warehouse in West Virginia or in Virginia, and, you know, it worked for a while, but in the end it was, you know, you just have to close everything up because something went wrong in terms of, you know, it's just, they weren't giving it the love that we needed it to, you know?
Okay.
So,
one of the other discoveries that we looked at in the analysis and the engineering study that we were doing with your company was the potential of software changes and maybe looking at our WarehouseOS product.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about that. In the early days, was it going to be an advantage to you, and would there be a benefit? And, you know, talking through that, again, you guys were very open to it. I think you were happy and taken care of, and were executing your business in a successful way. And then hearing about some technology that could be an advantage, you guys again were open-minded and said, let's review it and see what the potential is. But WarehouseOS, maybe talk a little bit about the benefit. You know, I'm sure the batch picking, the multi-line order processing, some of the things that were some early indicators to you and in the operations to say, this might have some merit. Let's look a little deeper. Yeah.
I mean, in order to talk about WarehouseOS's like pluses, you kind of have to go back and see all the stuff that you've been doing the last, you know, 15 years and the problems that every day that WarehouseOS like cleans up on our side. Number one is paper. Yeah. I mean, for years we've had paper pick lists, and I can't tell you how many times I've done a walk through the warehouse just to see if everything was going right, and I found a pick list just sitting on the floor, or I'd find a label sitting on the floor. And, you know, so we knew, like, why are we still using paper pick lists? Like, it's crazy to me that with all the technology, like, that was one of the questions me and Brandon would always ask was, like, why are we still printing paper pick lists? You know, so it intrigued us by WarehouseOS only using, you know, iPads and not having to give out a bunch of paperwork to everyone, and trusting that those employees will go out and, you know, keep the paperwork and actually do what the paperwork says. So the WarehouseOS, you know, solved that problem. A lot of times there was tons of mispicks. So mispicking was, we knew we had a big problem with mispicks every Christmas. We'd have tons and tons of pallets of just, when it finally got to the end where it was supposed to ship out the door and it wasn't the right product, we would just throw it in a pile. And at the end, like in January and February, it would take months for us to actually put all that stuff away, which means it wasn't up for sale. Right. You know, so eliminating mispicks was a big problem that we needed to do. And WarehouseOS addresses that by, you know, by doing one line at a time, one order, and it's either yes, pass, or fail. I mean, it's pretty simple. Yeah. It's nothing. It's not too complicated. Other than it either is the right thing for the order or it's not the right thing for the order. You know, and that's one of the best things that I like about WarehouseOS is I can walk out in my warehouse at any given time. Like, it doesn't even matter what part of the shipping day is, or it does not matter. I can tell you exactly where every order is at any given moment. So if I get an urgency email and they say, well, I definitely I'm canceling this huge order. And, you know, it used to be with our old systems, we would just email the customer and go, oh, we're sorry. It's the paper pick list been printed. I have no clue where it's at. It could have been shipped already. It could have been, you know, but we're WarehouseOS. We can look up that order number and I could find out if it's on aisle 5 with, you know, Isaiah picking it. It's already in his cart, or it's going to be picked on the route that he's going to be picking. And I can go stop that, and there was no software. We've used a lot of software in the past 20 years, and there was no software where I could walk out and just say, this is this order, this is where it's at. And so, and WarehouseOS does a great job doing that. And that's one of the pluses, big time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How about the picking efficiency in the day? Like fourth quarter is obviously the sprint, and everyone's working hard, and like finish times during the day.
Yeah.
Prior to finish times during the day with systems. I mean, what are some of the benefits there?
It's like night and day. So in order to get a real good picture of like what we used to do, I could walk you through a little bit of a day, what we used to do during the fourth quarter. Well, first, by understanding that you guys would fit more stuff into our warehouse by cartons, we used to be a forklift company. So no matter if the product was on the bottom or the fifth tier, our order pickers would have to drive to that top, pick the one item, and then go down and move on. And, and every software has a pick route. So the old softwares we did, it would take you on a good route still, but the time it takes to go up to every level and just pick one and keep going. Right. I really think a lot of like small to medium businesses are still doing that a lot. And when we got your study, you guys were the first ones to like say, hey, here's an idea. Why don't we take everything down below a certain tier, and that's your pick level, and then everything above that tier is your backstock. And in order to pick everything, let's make sure everything's down below as well as up above. So in terms of just like having everything down below, it's amazing. Like you can't beat like the replenishment system in WarehouseOS it's so easy, and you at the beginning of the day that you have every product down below, and it doesn't matter what sells. And if more sell, like you can go get 10 out of a bin, and if 20 sold, there's no worry. Another 10 is going to be coming from our replenishers. So we kind of went from having our forklift drivers be order pickers to our forklift drivers being just replenishers. And I believe the last fourth quarter where we didn't use WarehouseOS, I think we rented 9 to 10 order pickers. And this year we only had, I believe it's 3, maybe 4 with an old one if we needed to start it up. And we did way more orders this year. And so and we thought replenishment would be a pinch point because we sell so much. So we had our replenishers work on graveyard shift. And so they would replenish everything down below during the graveyard shift. And then our morning shift would come in and everything would be pickable. Well, we found that graveyard shift was running out of things to do because the replenishing wasn't taking that much time, because they would bring down, if you sold 10, you'd be able to say, well, instead of bringing down just the 10, they're going to bring down a couple hundred of the good stuff. So we thought replenishing would be like every night, like full bore 8 hours, but we found that, it wasn't the case. They were replenishing the SKUs way more than what we were selling. So it was always everything that was down below pickable. And, so this year we're probably not going to have a graveyard shift. It's probably just going to be everyone come in, the pickers start picking, and then the replenishers will replenish the few items that need to come down. So
while they're picking, just in line.
Yeah, and we thought there'd be a ton of replenishment, but because of the way the replenishment system works, it wasn't as bad as we thought, and there was really no need for a graveyard shift, to be honest. But we just stayed with it, and it worked. So
that's awesome to hear. I mean, we definitely, we talked about WarehouseOS as a concept coming to market as a software product that offered this, user interface on the iPad that was very, visible. It showed pictures of products. It showed SKU locations, gave you the red, green, you got it right, you got it wrong. But that productivity and the idea of the workers going out there and with that empowerment and really being supported to do the work.
Yeah. And you know, like our pickers would be out there with the old systems. The pickers would be out there and be like, I think this is the right product. I'm not sure. You know, there'd be a lot of times different systems they'd try to print out the picture, you know, but
right.
it wouldn't, you know, if the picture doesn't really look like it folded up in a plastic bag, you're really not going to know, you know, so you really have to depend on the code. And old systems really didn't have a code system to like say yes or no. So the pickers, our managers are getting a lot less questions. Like they don't go to the managers and say, is this the right thing? They know what to do. If it scans, it's the right thing. If it doesn't, you know, and sure, there's a few things where the factory mislabels the product. And for the most part, it scans in and says, no, it's not the right item, but it was just the wrong UPC. So we would just resticker everything. And the next time that item comes up, it's fine. It goes right through. Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, so your mispicks are drastically different. Massive.
Massive is an understatement. I mean, we're talking, we had pallets and pallets of mispicks. To this year, we had 0. Every day.
Impressive. Yeah.
I mean, it was, for the most part, if it was a mispick, it was because maybe like there was a damage, the product was damaged a little bit, or it, you know, it had a code, the wrong code was stickered on it. So when they got to it, it was the right code when they scanned it, but then they realized like the product inside the bag was wrong because the way either we bagged it or the factory bagged it, you know?
Okay.
I mean, but in terms of mispicks, it was crazy. Like there was no mispicks. Like it just didn't happen. And I mean, my guys at the warehouse would kill me if I didn't tell the story.
We want to hear the stories, definitely.
So every year during Christmas, we'd have this thing called the chase. And everyone knew what the chase was. The chase was basically you come in the morning, you do your normal procedure, and you get all your orders out the door. And at the end of the day, when the shipping, you know, like we try to do 3:30 in the afternoon is our shipping cutoff. So at 3:30, you look at your shipping software and you go, well, why aren't these all shipped? Like they're, you know, it was like we pulled everything the paper pick list said to do. And so why is there still, you know, 100, 200? Sometimes it'd be, you know, 600, 700 items left. You know, that's how bad some mispicks years were. And we're like, so over time it would just go through the warehouse. Like it'd be called the chase. And the chase would basically everybody that is working right now, go find this item, this item, this item, this item, this item. We got to get it out the door. And so we have to start the chase at 2 in order to get it out the door by 3:30. And the chase is crazy. Like it would be
all
people,
hands on deck.
It would be people that didn't work in the warehouse. It didn't matter. It's like, I need a size large of this. I need and it would just be, and it would be all because of mispicks. And sometimes the chase would have a second small minor chase because people that don't know what's going on would pull the wrong thing because they think they're going to the right spot. Right. So it, like over the years, it was just, the chase. Like it's time to do the chase, and no one liked it. I mean, it was awful.
You're there, Brandon's
there.
Everyone.
Yeah. I mean, it did not matter who you were or where, you know, those customers needed their product, and you can't just say, well, we mispicked a couple hundred of those. We'll get them tomorrow. Yeah. You know, when it's so the chase was just it's like everyone hated the chase. So this year, there was people that thought there would be a chase, and there was people like, I don't think there'd be a chase. And we got to the point where our warehouse manager, Bridger, he's just like, remember when we used to do the chase? That's crazy because now there's no chase. Like it's, you get the order or you don't get the order. And now, sure, sometimes our counts are off, but you short pick it and you move on. And, you know, when it comes time to shipping, the short pick goes to a report to the customer service and say, we really don't have it. You know, it's not, we know that it's not there, you know? And so we eliminated the chase this year. And I think that's like one of the biggest, like people would walk around and go, well, we're not doing the chase. So I don't care.
We must be doing good.
This is nice. I don't care if we're picking faster. I don't care if we're anything. We're just not doing the chase because everyone and people would leave work at 2:30. Some people would work 6:30 in the morning to 2:30.
Yeah.
And if the chase was going on, you ain't leaving. There's no chance. So now it's like you would just move it there's no chase. You just transfers to the mid shift and they just keep going.
Well, in today's world too, those are, the chase is, looking back on it, fond memories, right?
Yeah.
But it's really probably not something that you can continue, that the workforce would be like, I'm going to keep being down for this in the fourth quarter. Like, this is terrible. Like,
everyone was exhausted. Like over the past 5 years, I mean, every year would build up and be like, I'm not ready. I don't want to do a fourth quarter. Like it would be just like deflate.
A dark cloud.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, all right. And we knew if we wanted to get to the size of company we want to get to, that something had to change. Cause like you can't have this big a chase going. I mean, sometimes it would be 500, 400 items, and so WarehouseOS eliminated the chase for sure. And I mean, I know Bridger loves it. Yeah. That there's no chase. So
with the employees, what are some of the other maybe soft benefits for the employees? Obviously, they're finishing on projected times and the overtime, which is obviously a great for the business ledgers from the accounts and cost of. But I think the worker today definitely wants to have more predictable work-life balance, and especially when it's December, they got things to get ready for. They don't want to be working until 6 if they were going to be working until 3.
Yeah.
What other soft benefits that you see the morale picking up? Did you just feel like, retention's better, or what is
definitely morale's picked up. Like, I mean, people would have to make decisions and they were scared to make a decision because if they made the wrong decision, it might go down the line and a manager all the way up to an owner would be like, what did we do that for? So to have the employees be able to say, look, I trust the system. This is the right, and digging through boxes. Like the fact that when your guys' study came in and you said, let's put some totes down below, and the way it's set up is everything's a bay, there's tiers and each tier has a tote, and they just go right to it. Where we would dig through pallets, like literally, and employees would just be like, they'd be pissed off. I mean, there's just no other way to put it.
Yeah, like this is
it's just like I'm sick and tired of digging through all these boxes. Even though a pallet, we tried over the years to, stripe a pallet. We'd be like, make little lanes of the pallet. This is one product. This is one product. This is one product. But over time, picking it just gets jumbled. Where the totes, I mean, they literally look at the iPad and go, okay, bay 5, level 4, tote 6,
right there,
and boom, you're there. And every tote, there's the large totes have only one SKU inside of them, so you don't have to think, you don't have to dig through it. You just grab it out of that tote, and if you read the iPad right, you're just sticking your hand in the tote and grabbing it and scanning it. And 9 times out of 10, if it's wrong, you put your hand in the wrong tote. It's not because the product's wrong. It's because you were trying to go a little bit too fast. I mean, you're going fast, but sometimes you'll go, tote 6 and you'll stick your hand in tote 5 and grab it. But that's what the scanning's for. Yeah. It'll say, look, put this in your cart, or don't put this in your cart, So digging through boxes, I mean, employees love that there's no digging through different things. And being able to make decisions and, just like less stress of being in charge of, a huge pick list, because we'd give an employee like 5 pages and another employee would finish another 3 pages. Well, you'd have to go back to the employee with 5 pages and be like, hey, give me one of your pages, and then they would start on the pick route and everything. So, they're not worried about losing anything anymore and me yelling at them, and I have before, back in the day. So, I think, and one of the biggest things for shipping is we used, I mean, I don't really want to knock another company, but.
Yeah, you don't need to mention it, but, you just had a change.
But it's the major shipping software.
Yeah.
And we'd always, as owners, go, there's got to be something where you just scan it and it knows that it's that product to that order. And nobody would build this thing. Like, nobody. For years, I'd be saying, I don't understand why my guys have to look up an order and find the right order,
right.
Yeah. And that's part of where the chase came in. Someone would get, let's say, a Harry Potter bathrobe, right? It would go through the whole pick system. It would come to the shipper, and then the shipper would scan the product in in the dashboard of the old shipping system, and it would bring up every order. And some of those orders just came in like 2 minutes ago.
Right.
So they weren't printed on our pick list. So if the shipper picks the wrong one of the newer orders, then the older ones won't get printed again. So that becomes a chase item. And so it just like compounds over each other. So we would try things like, oh, don't ship anything that's, under 12 hours old. You got to ship everything from the oldest to the youngest that comes in. And so just the fact that you guys perfected the system of you scan it and a label comes out. And it doesn't matter how many are in the cart. It could be 5 of the same thing. It's just there's 5 orders for that item and there's 5 things in that cart. And it scans and it comes out. So like shippers were stressed out about doing shipping. And honestly, we were too, because people were doing it wrong. Like we were shipping the wrong items all the time. We were, and just the fact that you can scan it and the label comes right out, you don't have to have them like scroll through any screens and pick which ones. And the way we knew for sure that this was the right software this year was we didn't hire any more temps, and because usually what we do is we bring in like anywhere between 20 to 30 temps, and just they work every day. Well, on the days that we were going to have an uptick in orders, that we needed more iPads and more shipping stations, we would just have a company. They're called Bacon, and I think they're out of Utah here, but they're great. They have warehouse workers show up just for that one day, and you can put them on a shipping station. So the old softwares, there was no chance we could do this because we had to have the temps come in like probably in October, teach them how to do things, where WarehouseOS, they literally would show up the day of. It would take about 5 minutes to show them, look, you take the product out of the cart, you scan it, a label comes out. If by chance a label doesn't come out, it'll be an air label. Stick it on the package and then go give it to this manager, and then they'll take care of it. And then, so, I mean, you literally could train a brand new employee to ship off the street in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And there'd be no...
How long do you think you could train a picker?
Picker might take, 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It depends if they grasp the concept of
Yeah.
the location numbers, like the bays, the tiers, which is really easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to be in a paperless environment,
Yeah.
picking or shipping, 5 to 20 minutes training for
Yeah.
a new employee or a
Oh,
temp,
it's insane.
It's game changing.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it was...
What were the level of, obviously, years before you had 20 to 30 temps. What was your temp loads this year?
We did not. We got rid of one temp agency and we just used the one app, and I think we only used them a couple days.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we had no overtime. So this is the first year where we didn't pay overtime to any of our employees because we got stuff done and we really didn't need to stay after. And, I think I wrote down a couple things.
Yeah.
Before, let's see. Yeah, our old systems, our pickers would pick about 50 an hour, 50 orders an hour.
Yeah.
And after we've started with WarehouseOS and implemented your study, we were, the average is about 100 an hour.
Okay.
Of picking orders. Some people got up to about 120, 130 an hour, depending on, obviously how fast you walk, how fast you just want to get after it,
Yep.
And then shipping tripled. Like shipping took so long, shipping took forever. So it tripled. I mean, one shipping station, like years before, it was only like 20 to 30 packages an hour, where we had people averaging, there was, Angie's one of our superstars, and she was just off the charts, and like 140 an hour, 130 an hour shipping, 100, it was,
Wow.
It was insane, so shipping definitely tripled.
That's
So
unbelievable. Well, it's
so
exciting
the
to hear
faster
some of
the
that.
shippers go and the faster the pickers go, the less temps we have to bring in.
Yeah.
Because Brandon just basically did everything this year by numbers. Like once we found out what our average was with the WarehouseOS, we just said, look, this is how many people we need, because this is what we're estimating orders, and it worked out. There was a couple Mondays because we don't ship on Sundays, and during the fourth quarter we ship on Saturdays. So there was a couple Mondays that were huge that we had to bring in a couple bacon, temporary warehouse workers, and sometimes, this is the crazy part, sometimes the temps that just showed up the day before would be on the leaderboard, and we haven't talked about the leader that you guys.
Yeah.
It's basically a big TV screen that gamifies shipping. I mean, I put up a huge big screen TV in the shipping room.
Yep.
And it basically has the shippers' names, and they move up and down. And it's not to get mad at them or anything. It's just basically creates a fun little game of, I need to be on the top leaderboard. Yeah. And, and so sometimes we even had brand new bacon temporary warehouse workers on the top of the leaderboard. So you'd kind of go to the other employees and be like, why are they beating you? It's like, well, come on. They only work today. I've worked like 5 days straight, Yeah. It's not like so. And you could also look at the TV and say, look, this, this person is well below 100 an hour. Like, let's go talk to them and see if they're doing something, if they're, how to help them. Are they scanning it right? Are they putting, a lot of times people don't, a lot of times people scan the product and then they wait for the label to come out and then they put it in the bag, where you really just need to scan the product, put the thing in the bag while the label's coming out, and then you slap the label on it. Yeah. So it's really just training more, not necessarily to yell at people,
Right. No, and I think that you bring up the leaderboard and that gamification or whatever the benefits to it. But I mean, you also called out Angie or Angela.
Yeah, Angie.
Angie. Yeah. You may have known she was a superstar before, but
exactly.
But you now know, and peers know, like, she's crushing it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's another benefit to that peer acknowledgement of like, hey, we're all working really hard. Yeah. We're all on the same page. We're all trying to do, and they're in this, collaborative environment to be at a level of production that's they're proud of, and your company's proud of. I think,
and just so they don't get upset at me. I mean, everyone, the shipping room they were all rock stars. Yeah. So I don't want people to come back when I go back and they're like, hey, you didn't even say anything about this, that, or us. Everyone in the shipping room was amazing this year. Like, we did not have to kick anyone out of the shipping room because their numbers were so low. No. It was always, they were averaging the 100 or more an hour, and it was nothing. And that's even with multi. Oh, we haven't talked about multi. So
the multis are game changer.
If you do want to get into that too.
Well, it's probably worth just mentioning, because the WarehouseOS because it's a software built for process, it's not only for data collection. And a lot of warehouse management systems are all about data collection and data accuracy of inventory and so forth. We know that's important, but really equally important is that the flows and the support of, electronic data capture matches good warehouse flow and supports the type of orders and the type of businesses. Yeah. Like, we have a lot of different picking apps that match order profiles and company types. And so the multi, you can talk about your multi business, but it's enhanced because we have an app for that type of order.
Different types of order, like a pack one order or a multi order is what we call it. I don't know if it has even multi. So that was another big reason why we were looking. We knew we liked the old software, but we knew we couldn't grow because we just were not getting the multis done at all during Christmas. I mean, the average person buys pajamas for their kids. They might buy a large and a medium just because they don't know which one they're going to return. So it creates a ton of multi-orders. And other software, multi-orders is just 2 products. Like, it doesn't matter if it's the same SKU, but you guys have made it so if it's the same SKU and someone orders 2 of them, that's not even considered a multi-order. It just goes with your normal pack ones and it goes right into the cart. And at the shipping point, you scan it and it won't spit the label out. It'll go yellow and it basically shows you that you have to scan another one. So those are the 2 that you put in the envelope, So just right off the bat that you guys chopped off stuff that we considered multi, you guys showed that it's really not a multi-order, because it's one SKU bought 3 times, So I don't even want to, like, it might be embarrassing how we used to do multis, but I'm going to tell you anyway. So we used to pull them, and then we'd have a little, we'd like put a bunch of new bins in a back area of the warehouse and re-sticker the bins. And so we'd go pull we'd pull all the products that were in multi-orders, and then we would go put them in little bins in this back corner area. So we would, in a sense, pick the items twice, every order twice, because we would and have to put them away. So we'd go pick every SKU and then go put them away in all these little like temporary locations, and then we'd reprint them with just packing slips and say, okay, I got to go grab this out of location 100 and 105, and then we'd match them and then make together. And that's not even saying if they were right. So like it was,
but it's a good way to consolidate. You need to do that for the multis.
and
you have to have an area.
We tried every which way.
Up.
We tried our order pickers to drive. You would take forever if you just needed to pick one order, one line at a time. You need to pick, if there's 5 that are going to be coming up, you need to pick those. Yeah. So that's the way we tried. But we wouldn't finish orders, multi-orders. I mean, some days we'd never finish them. We would just, those are the orders that would really have to go to the next day, Right. And, our shipping is usually same or next day. So we'd have leeway to do the multis the next day, and we would have probably, I'd say 13 to 15 employees on multis, like packing or pulling.
Yep.
And, and this year it was just, I think maybe like 1 or 2 guys. And it was, we'd knock out 1,000 multi orders before lunch. Yeah. And it wasn't, and it's the way in my head I was visioning how multi should really go. You should be able to walk down the aisle and say, pull this, but put it here. And then when you walk by the other, like the match to that, grab it and also put it by that. Yeah. And we really couldn't find any software that did it until we found you guys.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, it's been, it's so fun to go in and, we walked the warehouse floor. Robert and I went in and talked with Brandon and just had a chance to kind of see how the season went. And, obviously you guys crushed it, had an incredible season, and as an operations team and an ownership group that, the idea of this podcast is really to share best practices between warehouse operators and the idea that, WarehouseOS and the design team can help companies, offer a significant operations advantage. Yeah. It's exciting to hear, and that's why we wanted to see if you'd take the afternoon and spend a minute on this podcast. And
it's actually really cool. Considering I'm a geek about warehouse stuff and like streamlining, processes and stuff inside the business, like I jumped to the chance to come talk. We know that there's so many people like your company, and so many people that are passionate about the fulfillment, taking care of their customers, managing and we get to work with a lot of companies. There's so many companies that are still looking for the tool, trying to figure it out. And I think a lot of companies maybe feel like, oh man, I can't even the idea how we take on our own fulfillment with the technology that's out there with these big 3PLs and the biggest supply chain companies. How can we compete? And we sell automation systems too, and goods to person, and we have, we do very large systems and small and medium. But for our small and medium business, we're excited about the opportunity. This type of platform really allows small and medium businesses to compete at a level of cost per item shipped. I think with any fulfillment system, and it puts them in the game to be profitable, secure in their financials, and we think of you guys as like a big, huge company software, but for companies like us, like it's amazing. Like we used to think, there was times where everyone would say, we need to switch to NetSuite. We need to switch to this. We need to switch to that. And we'd always go take a tour or a meeting on the software, and it was always just like, oh yeah, well that's because Kroger Foods does that. It's super, super expensive. Like there's no chance that we can implement that because we don't have the money.
Yeah.
We're still trying to run lean and grow, and so, and that's the other thing too. That's a plus for WarehouseOS is you pay for devices you need.
Yeah.
And if you don't need more devices, you don't need,
right.
Like, so
it's very efficient.
Yeah.
Well, and the cycle of it is that you continue to be a great operator as a growing medium-sized business toward large-sized business.
Yeah.
And then there are other technologies that you may implement, whether it's hybrid automation or a conveyor sorter or other equipment that we specialize in. It could be robotic AMRs for some of this transportation of carts back and forth. There's all kinds of engagement things that can be deployed to help process.
Yeah.
And, WarehouseOS is one of them. But we're excited about the journey and other things that we can bring to the table as you scale the business. But we're excited about your success. We're excited that you guys have always championed the hard work to get the work done and do it yourself. And it's should be it's commendable. You guys should feel great about where you are as a company. It's exciting.
Yeah, it was. You're from you doing your study. Your study showed us a lot. There was stuff that we had no idea that this SKU was in the top percentage of sales, but yet it was on the 5th tier. So why on earth would that SKU need to be up top when it should be a pallet down below? So if it's in our top 10, so like I would definitely say for companies that are like they know something could be better, I would say let other people look at from the outside, because we had blinders on of like, this is the way you do things. We just got to make it better. But having a company come in and do a study and say, well, look, this is what we, this is what we think. And, an outside perspective helps a lot.
Congratulations on the success, Levi. We appreciate you being a member of the podcast and sharing your experience.
Cool.
It's huge, and there's so much education out there. Again, commendable for you guys to being so open-minded, and we love that you guys are so dedicated to your business already. That's where we get the most collaboration, is where there's people that are operating, they're looking for better tools.
Yeah.
Our collaborative conversations, your solution is specific to your company based on your data, and it doesn't mean that the next company, there might share some similarities, but it won't look like yours. It's specific to what their business is, and there's but so glad we found a footprint that worked for you, and you guys have had great success. We can't appreciate you more, and appreciate you being a client and a friend. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been amazing.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.